Hello everybody, it's your boy Deshaun again, coming in from Average Joe Sports here in the new vlogosphere upstairs because the basement is still dirty because I'm too lazy to clean it, because that happens. Anyway, just gonna try to make this particular vlog entry really quick. As we all know, yesterday Coach Steve Sarkisian was in fact terminated as coach of the USC Trojans, when a day before that he was told to take a mandatory leave of absence. It comes at an interesting time because I was trying to see what USC's schedule was, and I figured, well, maybe there's a bye week, so usually ADs and not general managers, but owners like in the NFL will tend to fire coaches during a bye week. That way teams get an extra week with whomever the new coach is. Just to kind of bring it to a slightly serious spot here, let's not forget that alcoholism as a whole it's a serious thing. I mean, it's something that takes over people's minds. You know, it makes them, you know, want to keep drinking for one reason or another. Stress can be a huge trigger. You know, depression can be another huge trigger. You know, so we do when we clown on Steve Sarkisian as Husky fans, we do need to keep in mind that what Steve Sarkisian is going through personally is not something that you should be making fun of. You can sit there and say Steve Sarkisian sucks or whatever, and that you're disappointed in the fact that he left UW to go down to USC, and I get that. If you want to poke shots at that, that's fine, but his personal life and his personal demons are not something that should be poked fun at or to be made a mockery of. That alcoholism is serious. I happen to have family members who have gone through something similar with both alcohol and with drugs. So it's something I personally take seriously to heart. So let's all keep that in mind when we're on Facebook talking a whole bunch of mess. All right, y'all. Let's calm that down. I mean, that's completely and totally unnecessary. Again, it's your Facebook page. You can do what you want, but you also gotta think. You know, would I want someone to be talking about me on Facebook like that? So always keep that stuff in mind. But to bring it back into a wider perspective here, you know, USC had an interesting off-season with Steve Sarkisian as well. He showed up drunk to a booster event, which, you know, again, what one does with their personal life is their own business. But once you bring that into your work establishment, let's face it, that's going to be a problem. Again, you show up to work drunk at your own place of business. Guess what? You're gonna have to go in, talk to HR, and you're gonna have to talk to your boss. And in some cases, you may just get fired. You know, so that's something that's extremely serious, because it makes USC as a university look bad, and also it makes USC as a brand look bad. But again, everything is all right when they're winning. So gosh, the good news and the bad news. We'll just keep on the bad news before I go on. Again, Sark has got his own personal demons that he has to deal with on this, and I do wish him nothing but the best on that. It's a tough uphill battle that he's got, and even though he left UW to go to USC, I still support him in getting his personal stuff together. This is something that's serious, and it's a battle that he needs to face. So again, you know, prayers go out to him and his family through his particular tough time. So again, keep your chin up, go out there, keep fighting the good fight. But I have to say this because I feel that I need to look at both sides of the situation. USC had this problem. Understand something, Husky fans. This very easily could have been our problem. You know, I'm now hearing stories via both Seattle Times and, you know, SB Nation and all other sort of sports sites that this was also a growing problem at the UW as well. former players were saying that yes, he would show up drunk to events as well. So this seems to be an ongoing trend. So in some sense, we did as a university dodge a bullet on this one. So that's definitely something to also consider in this situation as well. And I mean, up until the USC game, there were a lot of doubters who were doubting on Chris Peterson, thinking that maybe he's not what's best for the university. And then this win kind of solidified for me to say, hey, we just got to stick with what's going on. Peterson is trying to recreate a different culture here. You know, a culture of winning, but also a culture of responsibility and being held responsible for one's actions. And you know, he's modeling boys into men, and he takes the sports athlete, not sports athlete, but I'm forgetting the word that I want to use. Student athlete. There it is. Focusing more on the student part of the student athlete, whereas a lot of coaches focus on the athlete of student athlete. So again, recreating a culture does take time. So I mean, you know, and getting back to Sark, when Sark came to UW, that was back in 2008. He's only 41. You know, he's 41 now. So he was in his mid to late 30s when he became a head coach at UW. And from that particular age point, as a head coach, from a head coach's perspective, that's really, really young. Usually when you see young coaches like that, they're still, you know, in the offensive or defensive coordinator positions. They're making their way up. You know, you start out as a positions coach, and then you go from there to, you know, maybe you're not working with, you know, your particular position. You know, maybe you're working with, you know, tight ends to start out, or you're working with special teams. Then you move up to offensive line, or you move up to you know assistant to the assistant to the assistant, you know, head coach. Then you jump back down and you work with quarterbacks and so on and so forth. So you kind of make your bones on any sort of team. So for Sark to come up in his mid-30s to coach the University of Washington was kind of unprecedented. And I know a lot of people go, well, Sark took an 0-12 team and got him to a bowl game. Listen, anyone who's coming in and taking a team that hasn't won a game, listen, you win 2 or 3 games, guess what? You've already set the bar. You know, that's why when in a previous vlog where I talked about how Coach Peterson is really the first coach in his first season at the UW to actually have a winning record. And I said, Sarkisian aside, because again, when you take an 0-12 team and you get them to a bowl game, yes, and that's impressive, but again, what was your benchmark? You had one job your first year, and that was to win a game. So I mean, that's something that we also have to keep into perspective. But going back to the situation at hand, this very easily could have been UW's problem. And now, you know, I've heard people on the Facebook, you know, say, you know, we dodged a bullet on this one. You know, all of a sudden, you know, the Peterson hire doesn't seem like such a bad idea, because now we have a coach who doesn't do that sort of a thing. Again, at the time, we didn't know this was going on. UW evidently kept it quiet, or they at least figured it out behind closed doors, so that way we didn't know about it. But meanwhile, you know, going down to USC, you know, again, a number of reasons why this could have been an issue. But you know, it doesn't change the fact that also USC as a university, as a brand, had to make this decision. You know, and I do think that they're probably still offering that helping hand for Coach Sark to really get himself better. And maybe, just maybe, there might be a way that he can come back and be a head football coach again back at USC. He wasn't doing that bad. I mean, you know, obviously the drinking wasn't a problem when he was winning. Because again, I've said this a million times, that everything's fine as long as you're winning. And let's look back at the USC UW game. Both teams played terrible. I said it was an ugly win because the game, that game for UW could have, would have been an absolute rout, but they left points on the field. I said when I watched the first half, UW spent the entirety of the first half of the USC game in USC in the red zone that entire time. So they had 3 possessions in the red zone just in the first half alone. I was like, well, there's potentially you figure you might score 2 out of those 3 times, and say you get a touchdown and a field goal. That's 10 points that you left on the board. That you left off the board, not on the board. So I mean that's something to consider. And USC didn't do themselves any favors. Their quarterback had a really, really bad game. Again, this is why we play these games, of course. So, and UW wound up squeaking out with the win. No thanks to the offense, which still needs a lot of work. The defense is playing really good, disciplined football, which is something that they've improved on since last season. So, I think in the grand scheme, from USC's perspective, I don't think this would have been a reason to fire Sark if everything was, okay and, he wasn't doing anything, from an alcoholic perspective. I think it would have been something that Sarkisian would have been put on notice for, and maybe they might have decided to go a different direction at the end of the season, but I don't think this would have been the recipe for him being fired. So, I mean, I just think with what happened earlier in the offseason, and then also he was actually drunk during an actual football game in itself. I think when you put all those together, then you add this loss on top of it. It was kind of like USC said, you know what, we may just have to just cut ties for now, at least to the point where Sarkisian can get some help. Because obviously there's something wrong with him and his mind, his body, and his spirit that he needs to figure out before he can continue to be a coach. And again, at the end of the day, we all hope that he does get the help that he needs. So I'm going to kind of end it there. There's more stuff that I could talk about, but I just wanted to kind of put my 2 cents out there and not have to use an entire Facebook comment to do so. So yeah, this week USC plays Notre Dame in a classic rivalry. It's at Notre Dame. So I hate Notre Dame, so I'm actually rooting for USC to hopefully pull out a win. I don't think it's going to be possible. That the high-powered offense that Notre Dame has runs really, really well, and the defense for USC could use some extra work. So here's hoping the Trojans get that win. And yes, and I don't even have the Dogs play Oregon this week. Listen, I'm hopeful. You know what I'm saying? Big ups to WSU last week for beating Oregon at home, and I thought that was a great win. I'm not gonna lie to you. So I'm gonna give them a quick go Cougs right there for that. But UW's gonna be facing a very angry Oregon team, and I've always said this every time we play Oregon, is that it seems like the Dogs seem to be 1 week too late. We catch Oregon, like you see Oregon, struggle against a team the week before. You go, oh man, we could have had a chance if that was us. And then they come play UW, and it's like all of a sudden the tables have turned. They're angry. They just want to, just assert dominance someplace. And so I always feel that we're always one week behind beating Oregon. But if the defense does as well as the defense did against USC, and the offense can actually put some points on the board, I think they have a legitimate shot. So yeah, go Dogs. The Trojans, please beat Notre Dame, because I enjoy seeing them lose. I have my reasons why I hate Notre Dame. If you want to know, you can put it in a comment, and I'll be glad to explain my piece. So yeah, another random serious vlog post, and kind of ranty because again going off the seat of my pants here. But again, alcoholism is something that we all need to take seriously, and the immature things that I've seen on people's Facebook pages about Sark and taking shots at him, I think personally that's completely and totally unnecessary, because I always say, what if that were me? So I mean, that's something that you do have to think about. So again, Sark, I really hope you go out there and you find what you need to help better yourself. It's a battle that you're gonna be fighting for the rest of your life. It doesn't end after going to rehab. It's something that you have to figure out as you go on. So again, best of luck to you. You know, I truly think USC is doing you a huge solid by letting you go and figuring out your life before trying to coach football. So football is not bigger than life. It's not. It's not the only thing. It's one thing. It's just not the only thing. So again, wishing you the best of luck out there. But still, go Dogs and the whole nine. Peace out.